A simple act of kindness can change everything. When Marcus, a black man flying home for the holidays, gives up his first-class seat to a pregnant woman, he never imagines it will lead him into the heart of a dangerous criminal conspiracy. As the plane lands, Marcus starts to notice strange behavior from the passengers around him. But it isn't until a mysterious man slips him a cryptic note that the full picture begins to unfold. What seemed like an innocent favor quickly turns into a high-stakes game where lives are on the line, and Marcus is right in the middle of it. With a $100 million criminal plot at play, will he be able to expose the truth before it's too late? Stay tuned. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at the note in his hand. The ink was smudged, the words barely legible. "Don't trust anyone," it read. "They're watching you." At first, he thought it was a joke, maybe from one of the passengers trying to mess with him. But then he remembered the strange man who had sat across from him, his eyes never leaving Marcus for the entire flight. As Marcus made his way through the terminal, the weight of the situation began to sink in. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was following him. The pregnant woman, who had looked so harmless, was now nowhere to be found. Marcus tried to brush it off, but the knot in his stomach only tightened. Something bigger was happening, and he had just become a part of it. Marcus' phone buzzed, snapping him out of his thoughts. It was a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the east exit. They know you're here." His heart raced. Who was this? Was it connected to the note, or was it another trap? As he stepped outside, he saw shadows lurking near the dimly lit exit. He took a cautious step forward, his mind racing through every possible scenario. Was this part of the criminal plot? Was he being pulled into something much bigger than he could understand? His phone buzzed again. This time it was a call, and when he answered, the voice on the other end was cold, commanding. "You don't know what you've stumbled into, Marcus. But it's too late now. Stay close and don't talk to anyone." Panic began to creep in. He hadn't realized how deep the web of corruption went. The money wasn't just about cash, it was about control. And Marcus had unknowingly walked straight into the middle of it. Meanwhile, far away, the pregnant woman from the flight, who was, in reality, far from being just an innocent traveler, was meeting with someone in a high-rise building. She wasn't as vulnerable as she had seemed. She was orchestrating the whole thing. But who was pulling her strings? The more Marcus thought, the more he realized there was no turning back. Whoever was behind this would stop at nothing to protect their secret, and he was now a key player in their dangerous game. Marcus stood frozen, the words on the phone still echoing in his head. "Stay close and don't talk to anyone." The voice had been calm, but the underlying threat was clear. Every instinct told him to run, to get away, but he didn't know who to trust anymore. Not the people in the terminal, not even the authorities. His only option was to follow the instructions for now. He moved toward the east exit, his mind racing. Every corner felt like it was hiding something. Someone watching, someone waiting. He glanced over his shoulder and saw a figure in the distance, walking too quickly, too deliberately. Could it be the same man from the plane? Or had someone else caught wind of his involvement? As Marcus rounded the corner, a black SUV pulled up beside him. The tinted windows rolled down slowly, revealing only the glint of a weapon in the passenger seat. The driver's face remained hidden, but Marcus could feel the weight of the situation pressing on him. This wasn't just about the $100 million criminal plot anymore. It was about his life. His phone buzzed again, and this time the message was clear. "Get in the car. Now." Without thinking, he threw open the door and slid into the back seat, heart pounding. The vehicle lurched forward, speeding down the road into an unfamiliar part of town. The only sound was the hum of the tires against the asphalt and the quiet breath of the driver, who still hadn't said a word. The tension was unbearable. Marcus wanted answers, wanted to know who was behind this, why they were dragging him into their world of deceit. But with every turn, every new street they passed, he realized how little control he had. And that was the worst part, the unknown. Meanwhile, the pregnant woman, sitting in her high-rise office, stared at the skyline. She knew the game was nearing its final stage. Marcus was about to make a choice that would determine everything. What he didn't realize yet was that his decision wasn't the only one that mattered. The people in power were already making theirs. Just as Marcus's mind began to race again, the car slowed to a stop. He could feel his pulse in his throat. He had no idea where he was or who was about to meet him. Would this be the moment it all came crashing down? The car came to an abrupt stop in front of an abandoned warehouse. Marcus barely had time to brace himself before the door swung open, and a tall figure stepped into the dim light. It was the man from the flight, the one who had watched him so intently. But this time, his eyes weren't cold. They were filled with a flicker of something else. Fear? Regret? Marcus couldn't tell, but it was enough to make him hesitate for the briefest moment. Without a word, the man motioned for Marcus to follow. They walked silently into the dark, echoing building, the air thick with the smell of rust and decay. Every step seemed to press deeper into the unknown. What was he walking into? And why him? Inside, the silence broke. A voice, smooth yet commanding, called from the shadows. "You made a mistake, Marcus." It was the pregnant woman, the one who had seemed so harmless just hours ago. Now she was standing in front of him, a smirk playing at the corner of her mouth. The tension in the room shot through the roof. Marcus could feel the weight of... Marcus could hardly breathe. The pregnant woman, the one he'd helped, was working for an underground network that even the FBI had been tracking for months. But the biggest shock was the revelation that the criminal operation wasn't about the money at all. It was about an international network of corruption that stretched far beyond what Marcus had thought possible. The chief turned to the man standing by his side, a dangerous look in his eyes. "And you're done. We've been watching you for years." The man didn't flinch, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. He tried to make a run for it, but within seconds, the FBI had him restrained. Marcus stood there, his head spinning. He had walked into this mess as a simple man trying to help a stranger. But in the end, he was more than just a bystander. He was a key player in bringing down a criminal empire. As the chaos settled and the FBI moved in, Marcus's phone buzzed one last time. The message was short. "You were never supposed to be part of this. But you've done more than you know. Thank you." He stared at the message, unsure of who had sent it, but one thing was clear. He had just survived something bigger than he could ever have imagined. And as he walked away from the wreckage, the weight of it all settling on his shoulders, he realized that this was just the beginning. As Marcus stepped into the daylight,